RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Now on Indianapolis This Week, the firing of FBI Director James Comey and the fallout. Both parties focusing on Indiana's U.S. Senate race and major moves for travelers at the Indianapolis International Airport. But first, we start with an exclusive interview with the deputy chair of the DNC. I asked Congressman Keith Ellison about the future of the Democratic Party and his reaction to the House's proposal to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. Who are the winners? Who are the losers?
The working people are going to lose if the health care bill that the Republicans propose passes. But if you're in the top 1%, you're going to make a lot of money. But here's the thing about the top 1%. A lot of those folks are very patriotic and want to see an America where everybody has a shot. So even for many folks who are doing well in our economy, you know, they're going to be a little saddened that so many people who work so hard are going to be really struggling.
What do you think went wrong for the party in 2016?
I think that it was a culmination of things. I mean, look, we didn't lose one election. We lost many state house elections across the country for a number of years. But I think the real problem is that we focused on to the swing states, and we didn't focus on the red and the blue states enough. We got to campaign everywhere, not just the swing states. And then we campaigned with the likely voter, not the folks who vote occasionally or who don't vote at all. We have got to expand our reach into those sections of the community where vote turnout is lower, and say, look, you know, you're a part of this democracy. We believe in you. We want you to be part of this thing. And then we got to fight voter suppression as well. There's 32 states with a photo ID law. They don't help increase participation. They actually suppress it. And so we've got to challenge these things in court. In Texas, they were found to be unconstitutional and discriminatory. And, of course, Indiana has a law a lot like it. There are 32 states that have them. They don't make things better. They actually exclude people. So we've got to confront voter suppression as well.
How critical will Indiana's U.S. Senate race be in that fight? It
is ground zero. I mean, it'll be a big fight. I mean, Joe Donnelly is a personal friend of mine. He and I started in Congress in 2006 together. And he is an awesome senator. He's among the most bipartisan people. If it's a good idea, he doesn't care what party. He's for that good idea. And if it's a bad idea, he's for it. He doesn't care who's proposing it. And so Indiana will be a critical state. Joe's proven he can win here. He's going to win again. But it's going to require that we all come together to help him, because he's been helping us.
Republicans also have their eye on Indiana's critical U.S. Senate race. The GOP primary expected to be a fight. Donald Trump Jr. working to rev up a room of 1,000 party faithful in Indianapolis. He's asking Republicans not to rest on their laurels, but rather to stay active.
Indiana has a big opportunity in 18. We can change the course of the Senate. We can give my father that extra vote that'll probably be needed, a vote that will be all too important.
The president's son is pledging his support to the Indiana GOP. He acknowledged the key role Hoosier voters played in his father's victory. This week, President Trump said there was no collusion between him, his campaign, and the Russians. This just days after the president fired FBI Director James Comey in the middle of his investigation into the Trump campaign's possible ties to Russia. The president made that statement in an interview with NBC. Trump said the Russians did not affect the vote, and everybody seems to think that. He also said Comey's firing had nothing to do with the investigation. U.S. Senator Joe Donnelly says a special prosecutor needs to step in.
I do believe that a special counsel should be appointed, and because the special counsel can help ensure that the FBI investigation moves forward. The FBI today, the assistant director, the acting director, stated that we are going to continue this investigation without fear, without worry, going wherever the evidence takes us. And what a special counsel does is it helps to ensure that happens. And so I think it's important to also have that person in place to help move it along, to help push it along. And as was indicated, what's critical now is that Director Comey was in the middle of an investigation regarding Russian hacking into our elections. The Russians attacked our election system in this country. Director Comey was working through the evidence on that before he was fired. We need it to be picked up right where it was and to continue to move that forward, go forward with it fearlessly wherever the evidence takes us.
U.S. Senator Todd Young is releasing a statement on Comey's firing, saying, quote, "I'm working to learn the facts behind the president's decision, but I hope new leadership in the FBI will help restore Americans' confidence in the Bureau." President Trump is issuing an executive order this week to form a commission on voter fraud and election security. It's something Trump has been promising to work on since the election, and it comes after his repeated and unsubstantiated claim that millions of people voted illegally in the 2016 election. Vice President Mike Pence will lead the Presidential Advisory Commission on election integrity. Indiana Secretary of State Connie Lawson will also serve on that panel. She says she is honored to be a part of it and hopes to, quote, ensure Americans have the utmost confidence in our elections. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office says it is still reviewing evidence from a wide-ranging voter registration fraud investigation last year. Lawson and Indiana State Police were at the forefront of that probe. An Indiana mother says she is done watching the debate over health care. She's taking her story straight to the U.S. Senate. Her concern is about the Medicaid waiver her daughter uses for treatment. She told senators about finding tens of thousands of dollars in medical bills in just one trip to her mailbox.
That was kind of an aha moment for me, and a very scary one. I felt overwhelmed.
9-year-old Rebecca was prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome. Doctors think she also suffers from an underlying genetic condition. Mom Cindy Johnson says she wasn't fully prepared for what that would mean. Multiple surgeries and daily therapy.
The costs just kept spiraling because even with good insurance, not everything was covered. And, you know, we had things like high-tier medications and medical equipment and specialists that were out of network.
Her family neared the $1 million lifetime cap in her husband's insurance policy within the first year of Rebecca's life. Then the Affordable Care Act passed. A Medicaid waiver now helps to fill in the gaps, including for Rebecca's behavioral therapy. But Johnson fears that could be on the line. And this week, she let a Senate panel know.
I'm grateful for the protections of the ACA. That's an understatement.
Her testimony requested on Capitol Hill after Johnson shared her family's story online.
She's a treasure. She is so worth this. I would love for her to meet a senator and then for that senator to look her in the eye and tell her that she's not worth it.
The plan the House approved would reduce Medicaid spending 25% by 2026. That reduction contributing to an estimated $337 billion decrease in the federal deficit. Those numbers coming from the Kaiser Family Foundation. Coming up on Indianapolis This Week, our political insiders break down the controversial firing of FBI Director James Comey. And is there a problem with Congressman Luke Messer's wife working as a contract lawyer for the city of Fishers?
Alleys and checkers. Fast foodies know the deal.
This week, an Indiana congressman who is considering a run for the U.S. Senate is responding to an Associated Press story about his wife's work as a contract lawyer for the city of Fishers. The AP reports Republican Congressman Luke Messer's wife, Jennifer, is paid $20,000 per month. She works from Washington, D.C. Legal experts say she is paid more than either of Fishers' two staff attorneys. We want to point out this isn't illegal. In fact, cities in Indiana have increasingly replaced government workers with contractors. The congressman is responding with a statement saying, "I suspect the Associated Press got interested in taking this unfair pot shot at my wife because I'm considering a run for the U.S. Senate. But the secret is now out. My wife, Jennifer, is the brains in the Messer outfit." He went on to say Jennifer's legal career and her work with Fishers predates my time as a congressman, and I have no doubt her legal career will flourish long after I am done in public service. And with that, we're joined now by our RTV6 political insiders, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, Adam Kirsch. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Is this a problem for Messer?
Well, first of all, this is the worst kept secret up in Fishers. Jennifer Messer has been on staff. It's all public. It's been extremely public for quite a while. So there is something to be said about the timing. Now, with that said, yes, we are about to have a Senate race. Yes, anytime we talk about individual, family, public money, particularly when Republicans have run on runaway spending, is it going to be an issue? Yes. From my understanding with the Messer folks, this doesn't change anything with respect to when they decide to run and make their announcement.
I think this is a problem for Luke Messer because it's exactly the type of same old politics that Hoosiers are sick of. They're sick of the self-dealing. They're sick of using your influence to enrich yourselves. We saw that Republicans criticized exactly that in the U.S. Senate race this time, and now we're seeing them turn around and defend it on this race.
Is this a preview of a possible nasty GOP primary to come?
I think it certainly is. I mean, we saw there was a Todd Rokita opposition hit coming. There's a Luke Messer. I think they're getting nasty.
It is not going to be pretty, let's put it that way, which might actually mean something for the other 5 or 6 guys that nobody knows about may have an inside shot at doing some of this. No, the trick for both Luke Messer and Todd Rokita, the 2 front runners, which by the way they haven't announced yet that either one is running, right. But we need to just keep that in mind, that a rough and tumble messy primary at the end of the day only helps Joe Donnelly.
Comey's firing, what do you make of the timing?
I'll let you take that one. I keep my head on my lap with these people.
We had how many different explanations for why? The explanation is why Jim Comey was leading the FBI investigation into Donald Trump and his campaign. Donald Trump said he decided to make the firing on Sunday. His White House said he made it after recommendation. Pence said he made it after recommendation. It's a mess. It's chaotic, and we need an independent counsel.
I am from Illinois, and this is how it starts. I can tell you that. When you get rid of your FBI director, and like Adam said, the stories are all over the place. And number 1 shows they're not communicating with each other. Number 2, also Mr. Comey has just requested more money to take a look at the possible influence in the Russian investigation to meddle in our elections. Then you decide to go ahead and fire the guy. And then Donald Trump puts out the tweet, well, I hope he doesn't decide to leak anything knowing there are recordings of our conversation. Then the president talked about shutting down media briefings. I am not a Watergate conspiracist whatsoever, but this seems a lot more like 1972 than 2017.
Well, Abdul, what do you make of, okay, if you're a Republican member of Congress, we've seen several not rush to judgment here. What are the political risks?
The political risks are you alienate, you may not be a big fan of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, you need his base in a general election. And if the Donald Trump base thinks you're being disloyal or going after their guy, that could come back to bite you in the rear end come next year. But otherwise, if you're a moderate Republican, I say just run away, far away from this as humanly possible.
Well, I think that's fair. I think moderate Republicans, and you're starting to see a little bit of crack on the Senate side. You're not really on the House. Right now, most Republicans in Congress are complicit in all of this. I mean, we've seen Mike Pence lie on it. We're starting to see Republican congressmen get into trouble on it. We need to impanel investigations. We need to get to the bottom of this freely and openly.
I would take a little bit of issue with the term lie, because I don't think when it comes to Donald Trump, anybody who is not Donald Trump is capable of lying, because no matter what you say, the president's going to come back and contradict you later on.
Well, except Mike Pence was in the room, talked to Donald Trump about firing Comey, back to the decision. Then they write the memo from the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein. Then he on Wednesday, he says, well, it was about the memo. And then it comes out that Trump said I was going to fire him all along, and Trump approved the decision beforehand. That's a lie.
No, it's Donald Trump changing his story like Donald Trump always does. Donald Trump says, hey, my first 100 days is going to be a big deal. Oh, the first 100 days don't mean all that much. Oh, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. The problem in the Trump administration is not the people around Donald Trump. The problem is Donald Trump.
I think both are problems, quite frankly.
The executive order we just reported on voter fraud, is that commission necessary? You think it's needed?
No. No. The rumors of voter fraud in the United States of America are grossly exaggerated. Obviously, do you always want to make sure that your system maintains its integrity? Of course you do. But these things about widespread, rampant voter fraud, when you've thrown in things like voter ID, when you've gone and cleaned up the voter rolls like a lot of states have, voter fraud is much, as Connie Lawson, the Secretary of State, always says, they made it easier for people to vote and harder for people to cheat.
Abdul and I are going to agree for the second time in as many weeks as we've been on. This is impressive. No,
next time we're wearing the same socks.
There isn't voter fraud in the United States at any appreciable level. They think they found two instances of in-person voter fraud in decades when the Republicans went looking for them to justify voter ID. Now, if we want to talk about voter suppression, that would be interesting to see about how the system makes it harder to vote than it necessarily should be. There's a happy medium. I think an open, bipartisan discussion about how to balance voter safety and voter turnout is important.
I will disagree with my good friend here on voter suppression. It is easy to vote. We give you 30 days. We give you ample time, ample opportunity across the country. Actually, what keeps people away are candidates and issues. We want more and better participation. We need better people running for public office.
Last question, a little bit of time left. We've heard that the White House is talking about canceling press briefings. What could that mean? What do you make of that?
It is a bad idea. You may not like the press, but the press is going to be there long after you're gone. It's best to be open with them and to be engaged with them, even if you don't like it.
I think canceling press briefings is bad, but let's also not pretend that real news happens in the White House briefing room. We've seen the Trump administration, the best reporting is coming out of well-sourced reporters who are generated outside the briefing room, partly because they don't tell the truth in the briefing room.
We will wait and see what happens. Adam, Abdul, thanks for joining us. Join us on Twitter as well. And coming up, 3,000 employees now up in the air, their jobs that is, as well as many grocery shoppers in central Indiana trying to figure out where they will go next. The latest on Marsh Supermarket struggles. What's next? What's at stake? You're watching Indianapolis This Week.
You don't want to miss it.
Another blow to the Marsh Supermarket chain this week. The company has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This move comes after Marsh announced it will close all of its remaining 44 stores unless the company finds a buyer in the next 2 months. Marsh says the stores that are still open will continue to operate as normal throughout the bankruptcy process. But if those stores close, an estimated 2,800 employees will be out of work. After more than 2 years of trying, the high hopes of having nonstop airline service between Indianapolis and Seattle take off. Literally, here is the first flight arriving, a new city and a new airline. Alaska Airlines' inaugural flight to Indy, fittingly numbered Flight 500, arrived Thursday night. A royal welcome awaited with flag waving from city and business leaders. After years of fewer flights as airlines have merged, the airport now has its most nonstop service in 10 years. It includes new flights to several West Coast cities like San Francisco and LA. Passengers love the nonstops, but the airport still wants more.
We're working on an over-the-pond flight, either to London, maybe Frankfurt, maybe Paris. But we're looking at all these options, and we're working with British Airways and several other airlines and speaking to them, and hopefully we'll have a flight sometime in the near future.
I think so. We've already told our family to come to Seattle to visit us more too, so it was really easy today.
Yeah, it's a lot better than we normally have to go through Chicago or Detroit, so much better and a lot faster too.
Yeah.
Later this summer, Alaska Airlines is adding more nonstop service between Indianapolis and San Francisco. While nurses help save countless lives every day, their hard work not always recognized. National Nurses Week just wrapped up, but it's never too late to show some love to the people who work tirelessly to keep us healthy and safe. More than 4 million men and women in the U.S. work as nurses. 120,000 of them are dedicated to serving Hoosier families. This week, nurses were recognized for not only their work ethic, but their kindness.
So I get to have the feeling of I got to help someone today. So to me, that's like priceless. So I get to go home every day and say, maybe I helped that life today.
Nurses are quiet heroes. They save lives in the background. And quite frankly, whether patients live or die often hinges on the quiet background activities that nurses provide 24/7.
So what can you do? Say thank you to a nurse in your life and let them know how much they are appreciated. The focus of the month of May now turns to the greatest spectacle in racing, the 101st running of the Indianapolis 500. This after the exciting IndyCar Grand Prix wrapped up yesterday at IMS. We're just 2 weeks out from the Indy 500. We brought 2016 IndyCar champion Simon Pagenaud to the RTV6 studio to talk about the big race.
And Indy is going to be phenomenal this year. And we have Alonso coming, which is a big news.
That's going to mix things up a little bit.
I think it will make it interesting because people will be interested to see that story. You know, Formula One world champion coming from Spain and trying to take on the big race, the biggest race of the world is quite spectacular.
Drivers will start their engines 2 weeks from today on May 28th. The only place to see the race right here on RTV6. We'd love for you to follow us on Twitter on the handle RTV6, on our Facebook page, and on the RTV6.
Now to new developments overnight in Indianapolis. An arrest made early this morning in a deadly hit and run. The victim, we've learned, is 90 years old. It all happened last night on the north side near the intersection of Illinois Street and 24th Streets around 10 p.m. IMPD officers say that suspect, 47-year-old Maurice Webster, took off. He was later arrested after he was spotted walking back to the scene. Also new overnight, police tell us a man died from the injuries he sustained in a shooting late last night in Indianapolis. It all happened outside of Triangle Liquors near 17th and Roosevelt Avenue on the northeast side. We're just learning the victim's name, 37-year-old Tremaine Lewis. Right now there's no word on any suspects, and we'll bring you any updates as we learn more information. Remember, throughout the day you can stay up to date on the latest breaking news. Just pull out your RTV6 app. I want to leave you now with a look from downtown on our Weather Now camera. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Lauren Casey. It's time for the 6, so let's take a look at 6 things coming up around Indy this week. Well, it's a high-heeled hit. The Broadway show Kinking Boots is coming to the Circle City this week, showing us there's no better way to fit in than to stand out. Right here at RTV6, we got to try on a pair our size. You can catch the show at Clues Memorial Hall starting on Tuesday. We'll take a stroll down the tree-lined streets of the Irvington neighborhood for a walking tour this week. You can admire the craftsman bungalows and the period-reviving homes from a building boom in the 1870s. This all takes place on Thursday at 5:30. Senior citizens, now is the time to take control of your health with a checkup. The Baxter YMCA on Shelby Street on the south side is hosting a free clinic for seniors on Friday. You can stop by from 9 until noon for screenings, door prizes, and a free lunch. Kick off the summer festival season with the 47th annual Broad Ripple Art Fair that's happening this weekend. More than 200 artists and artisans will be on hand at the Indianapolis Art Center. You can also enjoy live music, food, and local beer and wine. Well, I know many of you were bummed when Race for the Cure was canceled last month due to the weather. While the race was not rescheduled, they are doing a make-good for the survivors who plan to walk in the Pink Parade. The new Pink Parade will take place on Saturday from 12:30 to 2:30 at the Pyramids on the northwest side. Well, Indy car fans, race on over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Saturday for the Indy 500 practices and qualifications. The gates open at 7 a.m. with practices starting at 11. The cost for that event is $20. That's what's on tap this week. Katie, back to you.
Thanks, Lauren. Now a blooper of sorts to show you from the White House involving Vice President Mike Pence. Take a look. This is video of Pence talking to a group of military families when he accidentally knocks one child in the face. That boy refuses to be ignored. He follows the vice president and tells him this.
Excuse me, you owe me an apology.
Arabelle, you look at your money. Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to pop it.
An apology from the vice president after minutes of patiently waiting. Thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week. From our production staff and our entire team here at RTV6, we wish you a great Sunday, and feel free to follow us at RTV6.